Welcome back to the Deep Zone for another deep dive. Today we're basically staring into the abyss of the internet, but not in a philosophical way. We're talking about the very real, very crowded, and honestly surprising corporate world of cybersecurity threat landscape.
It is so crowded,
Yeah.
and I think it's evolved so far beyond the stereotypes that most people would actually be shocked to see who is on the other side of the screen right now.
Yeah, that's the exact thing that jumped out at me from the sources we're looking at today. We are pulling directly from the COMPTIA Security Plus Objectives, which is essentially the gold standard for understanding this stuff.
Absolutely.
And the mission for this deep dive is to unpack what they call the threat landscape. Because I think the average person, and I definitely include myself in this before I read the briefing,
Yeah.
we still have this 1990s movie idea of a hacker.
The whole Matrix fantasy.
Right, exactly. The lone wolf in a hoodie, sitting in a dark basement surrounded by empty energy drink cans, just typing green code to see if they can break into the Pentagon.
Yeah, I mean, sure, that person might still exist somewhere, but the source makes it crystal clear they aren't the primary threat anymore. We're looking at a landscape that's populated by organized crime syndicates that literally have HR departments and government military units with budgets that are bigger than some small countries. It's totally industrialized.
Industrialized, that's a great word.
Yeah, cybercrime isn't a hobby anymore. It's an economy. And to understand how to defend against it, you really have to understand the players first. The industry, we call them threat actors.
Okay, so let's break down this cast of characters. We need to figure out who they are, what motivates them, and then look at honestly, the terrifyingly creative ways they actually get into our systems.
Sounds good. Let's start at the bottom of the food chain, I guess, at least in terms of skill. The materials classify threats using a few attributes, like internal versus external, funding, intent, and sophistication.
Right on the lower end of sophistication, the CompTIA objectives call them script kiddies. Which I mean to say, it sounds a little bit dismissive.
It is a little derogatory, yeah, but it's the standard industry term. It refers to an unskilled attacker. So someone who doesn't know how to write code, they don't understand the underlying mechanics of how an exploit works, and frankly, they don't need to.
Because they can just download the tools. The sources mention that the barrier to entry has essentially just collapsed.
Completely collapsed. In the past, you really need to be a computer wizard to launch a significant attack. Now you can just go onto a dark web or honestly even parts of the open internet and download a point-and-click toolkit.
See, this is what really scares me about this specific category. Calling them an unskilled attacker makes them sound harmless, like a kid playing with matches. But if you give a kid a flamethrower, that lack of skill actually makes them way more dangerous.
That is a perfect analogy. They are dangerous precisely because they're unpredictable and opportunistic. They aren't targeting you specifically because of who you are or what your business does.
Right, they're just scanning.
Exactly. They're scanning the entire internet for a known vulnerability. It's like walking down a street and just rattling every single doorknob in the neighborhood. If your door happens to be unlocked, they just walk right in.
And I was reading about a rise of ransomware as a service, which really seems to this exact trap.
Oh, heavily. Serious criminal developers will write the complex ransomware code, and then they lease it out to these affiliates, which are often the script kiddies.
So they basically franchise it out.
Yes, exactly like a franchise.
Yeah.
The affiliate conducts the attack, they collect the ransom, and the developer takes a cut of the profits.
Man, so you have an unskilled labor force powered by high-end military-grade tools. What a bad combination. Let's move up the sophistication ladder just a bit to the hacked.
All right, so here is where the motivation completely shifts. With script kiddies, it's usually thrill-seeking or maybe bragging rights on a forum. With hacktivists, it's ideological.
They are the ones trying to make a statement. The classic example that comes to mind is anonymous. You know, decentralized, kind of chaotic, going after targets like PayPal or the Church of Scientology.
Yeah.
But the sources highlight a really interesting nuance here regarding internal hacktivists.
Yes, the insider who leaks data for a greater cause.
Right, and Edward Snowden is the prime example listed in the materials.
And that is a crucial distinction to understand. In the cybersecurity world, Snowden is categorized as a hacktivist because his motivation was fundamentally political. He believed he was exposing unethical surveillance.
He wasn't trying to sell the data to get rich.
Exactly. He was trying to change the system. So Whether you view him as a hero or a traitor, and people definitely have strong opinions on that, his profile fits the hacktivist actor perfectly.
And it shows the threat isn't always someone malicious in the traditional sense, wanting to burn everything down, but the impact is still massively devastating data breach.
Correct. The intent is what drives the target selection. A hacktivist might deface a website or take a server offline with a denial of service attack just to get media attention for whatever their cause is.
Which naturally brings us to the group that definitely does want to get rich. Organized crime.
The true professionals.
I was absolutely blown away by the details on this in the source text. We aren't talking about a street gang here. We are talking about massive enterprises. The sources say they have payroll, performance reviews, and I couldn't believe this customer service for their victims.
It sounds totally absurd, I know. But think about the business model for a second.
Yeah.
If I infect your company with ransomware and I demand $50,000 in Bitcoin to unlock your files, I need you to actually be able to pay me.
Right.
If you don't know how to buy Bitcoin, or my decryption tool is buggy and doesn't work, I lose my revenue.
So they literally have a help desk to walk you through paying them. Like, hello, thank you for calling Criminal Underworld. How can I help you rob yourself today?
Essentially, yes. They want a reputation for reliability. Because if word gets out that a certain ransomware group doesn't actually unlock your files after you pay them, nobody is going to pay the ransom anymore.
That is wild. They treat crime with total corporate efficiency.
They really do. And because they're so incredibly profitable, they can fund serious R&D.
It takes money to make money.
Exactly. Yeah. They reinvest their profits into buying better exploits, hiring better software developers, and basically just staying one step ahead of law enforcement.
But even organized crime has a ceiling, right? They're motivated by profit, so they aren't going to burn $1 million on an attack if they only expect to make $500,000 back. There's a financial rationality to it.
Right, but that rationality completely goes out the window when we talk about the absolute top tier. The nation-state actors, the APTs.
Advanced, persistent threats. This is straight out of a spy novel.
It really is. These are government-sponsored military or intelligence units. Think of groups from Russia, China, North Korea, the US, Israel. Their motivation isn't a quick buck. It's geopolitical dominance, espionage, or actual warfare.
And because they're funded by national tax budgets, their resources are effectively infinite.
Infinite time, infinite money, and the P in APT persistent is the truly scary part.
Yeah, explain that, because that stood out to me.
Well, a criminal just wants a quick smash and grab so they get paid.
Yeah.
An APT plays a very long game. They will compromise a network and then just sit there quietly for months, sometimes even years.
Just lurking.
Watching, learning the network, stealing state secrets, or just waiting for the command from their government to strike.
And because they have these infinite resources, they're the ones that can afford to utilize zero-day exploits. And I feel this term gets tossed around in tech thrillers a lot, but the economic reality of zero-day is fascinating.
So a zero-day is simply a vulnerability in software like Windows or iOS that the vendor doesn't know about yet.
So there are 0 days of warning.
Exactly. 0 days to prepare. There is no patch available. If you have a working zero-day exploit for the latest iPhone, that is a digital asset worth literally millions of dollars on the gray market.
And these nation states just hoard them.
They stockpile them like missiles. They don't use them for petty, everyday crimes because the moment you use a zero-day out in the wild, the vendor discovers it, they patch it, and your multi-million-dollar cyber weapon is suddenly useless.
Right.
So you save them for something massive, like Stuxnet.
Oh man, Stuxnet. The story that changed everything in this industry.
It really did. It was discovered around 2010. It was a highly sophisticated cyber weapon, widely attributed to the US and Israel, and it was designed specifically to target the Iranian nuclear program.
But it didn't just steal data, which was the norm.
No. It actually made the physical centrifuges that were used for enriching uranium spin completely out of control until they shattered and destroyed themselves.
While simultaneously feeding fake, normal-looking data to the monitoring screens so the scientists wouldn't know anything was wrong until it was too late.
Exactly. That was the exact moment the whole world realized that code can cause kinetic real-world damage. It can destroy physical machinery. That is the capability of an APT.
That is terrifying. But before we move off of actors, there's one more character we have to mention, and we probably see them in the mirror every day. It's the insider threat, sometimes not even meaning to.
Ah, yes. the call is coming from inside the house.
The research highlights that this is often the hardest threat to detect because they are supposed to be there. They have a badge, they have a valid login.
And they aren't always malicious. The accidental insider is actually a massive problem. This is the employee who just casually clicks a phishing link in an email, or the person who leaves a company laptop in the back of an Uber.
Right. There's no bad intent there at all, but the damage to the company is exactly the same as if they were hacked.
Exactly. But then, of course, you do have the malicious ones, the disgruntled employee who was passed over for a promotion, or the ones stealing proprietary trade secrets to take to a rival competitor.
Or outright corporate espionage. It's got to be much easier to just pay a janitor $10,000 to plug a tiny USB drive into a server rack than it is to spend months trying to crack a firewall from the outside.
Absolutely, which is a perfect transition into the how. We know the actors on the stage, so let's talk about the stage itself. The COMPTIA sources draw a really important distinction between the attack surface and the threat vector. Again, the attack surface and the threat vector.
Okay, yeah. So think of the attack surface as your total exposure. If your company is a medieval castle, the attack surface is the walls, the main gates, the windows, maybe the drainage pipe. It's everywhere you potentially could be hit.
Right, and the threat vector is the specific method used to breach it. It's the battering ram or the grappling hook or the bribe to the guards.
And in the modern corporate world, that castle is sprawling. It's not just one building anymore. We have the concept of shadow IT, which I love the term. It sounds so mysterious, but really it's just employees trying to get their work done.
It's all about friction. If the official corporate file transfer system is way too slow or it blocks certain video file types, an employee might just spin up their personal Dropbox or Google Drive to send the files to a client.
Right, they're just trying to be productive.
Exactly, but they've just moved highly sensitive corporate data completely outside the castle walls onto a third-party server that the IT department can't see, can't manage, and can't protect.
Expanding the attack surface inadvertently.
Yep.
So let's look at the vectors then, the battering rams. The most common one is apparently still the simplest. Just asking nicely.
Social engineering, good old-fashioned phishing.
But it's really not just the Nigerian prince emails with bad spelling anymore.
No, it evolved significantly. We now have vishing, which is voice phishing. With the rise of AI and deepfakes, attackers can literally clone a CEO's voice just from a few YouTube clips.
Wow.
Then they call the finance department, sounding exactly like the boss, authorizing an urgent wire transfer.
It's genuinely terrifying. It's hacking the human being, not the machine.
Because humans are always the weakest link in any security chain. We naturally want to be helpful, and we're inherently curious.
Speaking of curiosity, the USB drop, does this actually still work? It feels like such a cheesy movie trope, just dropping an infected thumb drive in a parking lot.
It works remarkably well, actually. You just take a cheap USB drive, write executive salaries 2024 or layoff plan on a sticky note, put it on the drive, and leave it in the lobby or the parking garage.
And human nature completely takes over.
Right. Someone picks it up, they plug it into their networked workstation just to see what's on it, and boom, the malware injects itself into the system before they even try to open a file.
It's high-tech capability, just leveraging low-tech human curiosity.
Exactly.
But there is one vector in the notes that I found particularly disturbing, mostly because it completely bypasses the user's control entirely. The supply chain.
Ah, yes, the indirect method. Basically, if they can't hack your network directly because your internal defenses are simply too good, they'll just hack the company that makes your servers.
Okay, so say I order a brand new, highly secure firewall or a laptop from a trusted, big-name vendor. It gets shipped.
And somewhere in transit, maybe at a major distribution center or a customs warehouse, a covert operative intercepts the package.
Okay.
They carefully open the box, they install a tiny hardware bug, or even solder a modified chip right onto the motherboard. They reseal the box perfectly so it looks factory fresh, and they send it on its way.
So when I, the diligent IT manager, open the box, it looks perfectly sealed. I trust it completely. But the hardware is already compromised before I even plug it into the wall.
Exactly. And it's not just hardware interdiction either. It's software updates, too.
Yeah.
The SolarWinds attack from a few years ago is the famous textbook example here.
Right. They compromised the update server itself.
Yes. Attackers got into the software vendor's update mechanism. So thousands of companies downloaded a totally legitimate, digitally signed security update that secretly contained a malicious backdoor. They locked their front doors, but the lock manufacturer had already given the burglars a master key.
That brings up a massive existential issue of trust. I mean, if you can't trust the hardware out of the box or the official updates, what can you actually trust? Which naturally leads us to the defense side of the objectives. How do the pros actually stay ahead of this? The sources talk a lot about threat intelligence.
Well, defense used to be very reactive. You build a wall and you wait for an alarm to go off. Now it has to be incredibly proactive. Threat intelligence is the rigorous process of gathering actual data on these actors and their vectors.
So it's not just guessing what they might do, it's hard data.
It's massive amounts of data. You have OSINT, which is open source intelligence. That's everything publicly available. Twitter feeds, CISA government alerts, academic white papers.
Right.
Then you have closed sources, which are proprietary threat feeds that you pay big security vendors for. And of course, you have to monitor the dark web.
Basically monitoring the bad guys on their own turf.
Exactly. Security teams will monitor dark web marketplaces using the Tor browser to see if their own company's credentials are up for sale. If you see a listing that says admin login for your specific company for $500, you instantly know you have a breach.
Even if your internal systems haven't flashed a single red alert yet.
Exactly.
The major problem, though, as the COMPTIA sources point out, is the sheer volume of data. You can't just drink from the fire hose. You need to know what's actually real and actionable.
This is where confidence scores come in. Every piece of intelligence needs a rating attached to it. Is this specific threat confirmed by multiple independent sources or just an improbable rumor?
Right, because if a security analyst gets woken up at 3 a.m. for every low confidence rumor on Twitter, they are going to burn out in a week.
Oh yeah, alert fatigue is real. You have to filter signal from noise. It's paralysis by analysis. Old intel is totally useless or irrelevant.
And speed seems to be the other critical factor here. The bad guys are using highly automated tools. If we are just sending PDF warning reports to each other via email, we've basically already lost the fight.
We have to operate at machine speed now. And this is exactly where STIX and TACTI come into play.
Okay, I always get these two acronyms mixed up, but the analogy of the letter and the mail truck in the notes really helped me.
It's the best way to think about it. It's a language and a transport mechanism. Imagine a bank in London sees a brand new Russian ransomware attack hitting their servers. They need to tell a partner bank in New York immediately so they can block it.
But their internal computer systems might be totally completely different.
Exactly. So STI, which stands for Structured Threat Information Expression, is the standardized language. It's the standard format, usually XML or JSON, that describes the what of the attack in a way that both totally different machines can instantly understand.
Okay, so STIX is the what. It's the structured data of the threat.
Right. And TAC2, the trusted automated exchange of indicator information, is the how. It's a high-speed encrypted pipe that actually delivers that STIX message over HTTPS.
So it's kind of like high-frequency trading in the stock market, but for cyber defense.
That is a brilliant comparison, yeah. It allows the defenses to be fully automated. So Bank A detects an attack. The system automatically converts the threat indicators into a STIX format, sends it via TACTI-TAB2 to an industry sharing center, and Bank B's firewall automatically receives it and updates its rules to block that malicious IP address.
All in milliseconds.
All in milliseconds, without a single human ever needing to pick up a phone or read an email.
Concept of the sharing center, the ISAC, Information Sharing and Analysis Center, it's really like building herd immunity for corporate networks.
It really is. Entire industries like banking, energy, and healthcare have finally realized that when it comes to sophisticated cyber threats, they aren't competitors anymore. They are allies.
Right, because if the national power grid goes down, everybody loses, no matter what your market share is. So they share this vital intel to protect the whole ecosystem.
Exactly.
So pulling this all together for you listening, we have gone from the who, spanning from the thrill-seeking script kiddie downloading tools, all the way to the nation-state playing global 4D chess. We've looked at the why, whether it's money, politics, or outright war. And the how, the vectors ranging from a simple fake email to physically tampering with the global supply chain.
And we wrap with the defense using standardized intelligence and machine speed automation, trying to keep pace.
It really paints a vivid picture of a landscape that is constantly aggressively shifting.
Yeah.
The biggest takeaway for me from all these sources is that the old barriers are just gone. You don't need incredible skill to be a major threat anymore, and you certainly don't need to be a high-value target to become a victim.
That is the harsh reality. You, me, everyone listening, we are all part of the global attack surface now, whether it is your personal phone, your smart thermostat at home, or your corporate work laptop.
Yeah. And I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought that actually kept me up a bit last night after reading the section on supply chain interdiction, because we operate our entire lives on this basic assumption of trust.
We do.
We assume that if we buy a brand new device from a major manufacturer and it arrives in a sealed box, that it's clean.
It's the absolute foundation of our entire tech economy.
Right. But if highly sophisticated actors, like nation states, are actively infiltrating the supply chain, embedding microscopic backdoors into the silicon chips or the foundational code before the product even reaches the store shelf, can you ever be 100% certain that the device you are using right now is truly secure?
In this threat landscape, absolute certainty is a luxury we don't have anymore. Verification is everything.
On that cheery, paranoid note, stay suspicious, stay safe, and thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Verify before you trust, everyone.
See you next time.
Thanks again for joining us in the Deep Zone for another deep dive. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Stay safe out there.
This is Lux, Micah, and Naughty saying, stay classy, Internet.